Very well, shall we pray? Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, we don't have any message from the presidency, neither do we have any formal communication from the speaker. So we return to item 4 on today's IDA paper. Item 4 in today's other paper, that's and proceedings and official report. Let's and proceedings. We start from page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page number 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page number 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Page 21. Page number 22. Page 23. Page 24. 25, page number 26, page 27, page 28, page 29, page 30, page number 31, page 32, page 33, page 34, page 35, and finally page 36. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings of yesterday, Wednesday, 1st November 2023, is hereby adopted as the true records of proceedings. Honorable members, I have in my hands the official report of Thursday, the 20th of July, 2023. Official report of Thursday, 20th July, 2023. I take it again. Official report of 20th July, 2023. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of 20th July 2023 is hereby adopted as the true records of proceedings. Yes, leadership, are you moving to statements?
With respect, shall we vary order of business briefly and go on to public business and start off with the presentation of papers, item 6. So we got the whole of item 6, I, all the way to V. And let me further seek your leave for it to be done by the beautiful Deputy Foreign Minister. To do the needful, Speaker, with your leave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Chief will be helpful for this House to tell us where the whereabouts of the Minister.
Very well. Before we move to public business, let me use this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of Fountainhead Christian School, being led by Emmanuel Kweku Otu, and the school is located at Tema West constituency. Do we have the Member of Parliament? You may resume your seat, students. Yes, leader.
Just for the records. Just for the records, Tema West is actively engaged in a committee deliberation. He's actively engaged at a committee meeting. Yes.
Well. Honourable members, we want to commence public business, and I'll invite you to page 1, item listed 6. Item listed 6 in today's order paper. Presentation of papers, and as it has been agreed, it will be done by the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. So, Deputy Minister, you have the floor now. 6, I, V, and V. I think we can take all of them together.
Convention number 190 concerning violence and harassment 2019 of the International Labour Organization. Recommendation number 205 on employment and decent work for peace and resilience 2017 of the International Labour Organization. Recommendation number 206 concerning violence and harassment 2019 of the International Labour Organization. Amendment of 2022 to the Maritime Labour Convention 2006 of the International Labour Organization. Protocol of 2014 to the Forced Labour Convention 1930, number 29 of the International Labour Organization.
Honourable members, the conventions listed I, V have been duly presented. They are referred to the Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises for consideration and report. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, I just thought the item 6I, Roman I, and V, yes, and V, if we may include the leadership of the Foreign Affairs Committee, because it's related to international conventions, and if we could just limit it to the leadership.
Minority leadership, that's the suggestion of the majority chief whip.
Mr. Speaker, it's in order.
It's enough. Well. So, honourable members, the leadership of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration will join the Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises on item listed I and V. The leadership of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration will join the Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises on I and V. Very well. So, honourable members, we move to item 5. Item 5 in today's order paper, and we have 3 statements. 3 statements that has been admitted by the Speaker for us to consider. And the first one will be read by the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, and the statement is parliamentary briefing on the escalation of tension between Israel and Hamas. I repeat the topic again. Parliamentary briefing on the escalation of tension between Israel and Hamas. Honorable members, let's give our own a hearing. Honorable Deputy Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Deputy Speakers of Parliament, Honorable Majority and Minority Leaders, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me at the onset express my profound gratitude to the Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honorable Alban Babin, for the opportunity to brief this distinguished House on the recent escalation of conflict in the Middle East. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, in the early hours of Saturday, 7th October 2023, Hamas launched a multifaceted brazen drone assault on Israel from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel and the areas north of El Taviv by air, land, and sea, killing at least 1,400 Israelis, including 289 soldiers and some foreign nationals, leaving over 4,010 wounded and dozens kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. Israel's counterattack has resulted in the death of over 8,300 Palestinians and more than 20,000 wounded as of 30th October 2023. The dire humanitarian situation continues to deepen as Israel intensifies its military response in Gaza to release the hostages and eliminate Hamas military structure. Following the widespread calls for humanitarian support for those caught up in the conflict, especially since the destruction of the Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza, which is reported to have killed about 500 people, 171 aid trucks, and as of 31st October, have been allowed to enter Gaza through the Rafah borders, crossing with Israel, carrying water, food, medicine, and medicinal supplies, except fuel to augment the existing supplies in Gaza. Mr. Speaker, as of 27th October 2023, through negotiations mediated by Qatar, 4 out of about 224 hostages have been released by Hamas so far. Efforts to resolve the conflict are being undertaken by the European Union, the United Nations, Gulf Cooperation Council, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and the Arab League, who are calling for the cessation of hostilities by the two parties. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas has provoked divided support and opinions over the past few weeks, with countries in the Middle East and North Africa showing solidarity with Palestine, whilst most of the Western countries have also shown support to Israel. At least 44 countries, including France, Germany, the Netherlands, the European Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America, have condemned the attack by Hamas and declared its tactics as terrorism. On the other hand, regional players such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Syria, and Iraq have pinned responsibility on Israel. Additionally, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt have called for the cessation of hostilities by both parties. Mr. Speaker, the UN Security Council, of which Ghana is currently a member, is scrambling for answers in the wake of this crisis. The paralysis in the Council is not unexpected, considering the political sensitivity that have traditionally characterized this Council handling of the Palestinian question. Attempts to adopt a unified position on the unprecedented attacks in Israel and Gaza have proven futile, and several resolutions tabled by Russia, Brazil, United States, and the United Arab Emirates on behalf of the Arab group unable to achieve consensus. Some of the resolutions have lacked the balance needed to garner the support of all sides. Ghana voted in favor of the resolution which condemned violence and hostilities against civilians and called for the humanitarian pause to allow for full, safe, and unhindered access to aid agencies to deliver humanitarian assistance to civilian population. Mr. Speaker, the Israeli government has expressed displeasure with regards to Brazil's resolution that was tabled before the United Nations Council on 18 October 2023. A subsequent resolution tabled at the United Nations General Assembly. Also, concerns raised by the Israeli government indicated that although the Brazil's resolution condemned Hamas attack and called for the release of the abductees, it did not recognize Israel's right to self-defense. Israel has accordingly asked for designation of Hamas as a terrorist organization, a public denouncing of Hamas, and public declaration of Israel's right to self-defense. Ghana also advocated for a comprehensive and sustainable solution in the Middle East conflict. Ghana therefore supports all international efforts geared at finding a just, peaceful, and lasting solution that will guarantee the right of State of Israel to exist within also ensure and universally recognized boundaries, as well as the Palestinian people's legitimate right to self-determination and the establishment of Palestinian state. Ghana believes that the proposed two-state solution based on negotiations and dialogue is the most viable option within the global efforts at bringing about a durable peace to the ordinary people of Israel and Palestine. Mr. Speaker, in a press release on the 8th October 2023, the government of Ghana unreservedly expressed its condemnation of Hamas's attack and actions and retreated Israel's right to exist and defend itself. The statement further called on Hamas to withdraw its militants from southern Israel and urged the government of Israel to also exercise restraints in its response to Hamas's attack. The African Union, on its part, issued a communique in which the chairperson called on both parties to put an end to the hostilities and return to the negotiation table to implement the principle of the two-state solution. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by indicating that although the disastrous nature of the conflict has raised so many concerns about the welfare of Ghanaians in Israel, our mission in Tel Aviv has reported that no Ghanaian has been caught up in the attacks and the Ghanaian community is safe. As of now, the issue of evacuation of our nationals from Israel has not been raised. In addition, our mission is in close contact with the leaders of the Ghanaian community and is providing the ministry with the updates on their welfare, and we provide the general public with updates pertaining to the welfare of Ghanaians in Israel. With that being said, Mr. Speaker, I'll thank you once again, and I'll thank honorable members for the kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Yes, let me start with Honorable Member for Okaikwe Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very brief and commend government for coming to the House to brief honorable members on Ghana's position on the happenings in the Middle East, especially between the good people of Israel and the Palestinians. Mr. Speaker, we've often heard about the two-state solution to peace and security within the Middle East. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the origins of this problem, you recall that in 1993, President Clinton of the United States of America led the peace effort with the signing of the Oslo Accords between Israel and Palestine to define a process towards the establishment of the two states, that is, the recognition of the Palestinian Authority as a state and a recognition of Israel, which was founded in 1948. Mr. Speaker, various steps were put in place within the two Oslo Accords, but fast forward, we haven't seen enough progress within those two accords, which we term the Oslo Accords. Mr. Speaker, you recall the handshake between President Ishaq Rabin and Yasser Arafat with their chief negotiator, Mahmoud Abbas. Mr. Speaker, on the 7th of October, we woke up and witnessed an attack on the people of Israel that led to the death of over 1,400 people, including the aged, soldiers, children, and some people who have been captured and held hostage within tunnels in Palestine. The Israelis also, within their right, also attacked the people of Palestine to release their hostages. Mr. Speaker, these two incidents have been condemned by every well-meaning institution or state within the world, that the attacks on the Israelis and also certain measures that have been taken by the Palestinians ought to be measured, especially with regards to old people, children, and properties belonging to both sides in the Middle East. Mr. Speaker, there's been various summits that have been held to ensure the return of peace within the area, with Egypt leading the charge. But to date, you realize that escalation of tensions and the invasion, especially the ground invasion by Israel into Palestine, has led to loss of lives and destruction of loss of property. Even the supply of medical aid, water, fuel, and other essentials into Gaza has been restricted, especially by virtue of the fight going on within the area. So, Speaker, government of Ghana has issued a statement, and that statement, I believe, was issued on the 8th, a copy of which I have here, stating government's position on the happenings within the Middle East, especially between Israel and the right of Israel to self-defend, but also, Mr. Speaker, be responsible, especially to exercise from government, while government affirms its support for Israel's right to exist and defend itself. It calls on the Israeli government to exercise restraint in its response to the Hamas attack, which I believe, Mr. Speaker, Israel has a right to self-defend itself and territory, but it also must have recourse to international law and international humanitarian law with regards to the lives of the old people, children, civilians, hospitals, and what have you. Just a couple of days, a mosque was targeted and bombarded, Mr. Speaker. Those are some of the things that we ought to speak against and ensure that the rules of war are adhered to and respected. Mr. Speaker, all we are asking for is for peace to prevail in the area. Saudi Arabia, I know, on the verge of winning the bid to host the next World Cup. Israel was very close at entering serious diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia, the Qataris, and the UAE. We want peace in the Middle East because they are our natural brothers, Mr. Speaker. When there's peace in the Middle East, Africa stands to gain, and we entreat all the feuding factions to return to the negotiation tables for peace to prevail in the area. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me come to Dr. Rashid Pepo, MP for Wa Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. for the opportunity.
Honorable Eric, why are you looking at him like that?
Thank you for. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement in contribution to the original statement made by the Honorable Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we have come to a stage in the life of man when, upon reflection, we know that we have not gone over the pain of fighting and the pain of destruction of property and the lives of people. It is important for us to use this occasion to reflect on our history and to begin to think about how we want to schedule the life of our human race. We all were shocked when on the 7th of October we heard that elements of Hamas had moved into Israel, defied all the superior technological defense of Israel, were able to move into the land of Israel, killed a number of people, as many as 1,400, arrested or detained or even carried many of them into Palestine and are still keeping them. Upon that reflection, we got to realize that whatever protection we seem to have around ourselves, we can still be open to attacks. Upon the response of Israel, bombings have taken place for more than 2 weeks now. Deaths have occurred, lives have been lost, people are maimed for life, and today the borders between Israel and Egypt is open for those who are completely out of health, are able to cross into Egypt for them to be treated. Mr. Speaker, it is a sad story when you watch television and you see what is happening. It will be unfair when you speak about the deaths occurring in Palestine without talking about the deaths that occurred also in Israel. But it will be of a much more advanced academic analysis if we want to think about the genesis of the situation. We all know that in 1948, when the British withdrew from the land now called either Palestine or Israel, there was a war, and the Israelis responded to the war, fought and defeated the Arabs who defeated them, who attacked them. In 1967, another such war came up. The Israelis were triumphant. In 1972, another such war came up, and the Israelis were triumphant. And in all these situations, more lands from the Palestinians have been taken. And after that, the Israelis kept advancing and taking land from the Palestinians. Mr. Speaker, the reason that all these things are happening is because the two states there refuse to agree that each of them should have the right to exist. While the Palestinians and the Arabs think that the Israelis don't have the right to claim the place as Israel, the Israelis feel that they own the place and perhaps should not even have Arabs or the Palestinians owning part of it. That controversy will continue to define how they relate with each other. Mr. Speaker, the present situation has come to the point when the world, including free citizens everywhere, are saying that if there is going to be a retaliation, there must be a limit to it. There must be respect for international law, as the penultimate speaker just mentioned, that whenever there is a response to a situation of self-defense, there must be a point at which you should respect international law. It is the reason, Mr. Speaker, we are calling on Israel and calling on the Palestinians to begin to respect international law and to begin to put a stop to the situation which we see on television and which is a panicking situation for the rest of us. Children are dying, sick people are dying, women who are pregnant and women who are carrying children, old women are dying, innocent people who have nothing to do with the war are dying. Mr. Speaker, it is time to begin to reflect that it is time to stop this war. And I'm happy that the Americans came out yesterday from their president, their own president, to say that there must be a humanitarian ceasefire. In other words, there must be a ceasefire to allow for health care to take place, to allow for children to be evacuated, to allow for space to negotiate. The Speaker, in the absence of this, one does not imagine what exactly the leaders who are in charge now and who are advocating the war, what they are looking for. People are dying every day. The Palestinians are locked up. They can't even leave the country. Bombs are flying every day, up and down. Children are dying. Everybody. You sleep, you don't know whether you wake up or not. Mr. Speaker, for us in this parliament, the one thing we have to ask for is for a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire. Not for any other thing at all, not for an even humanitarian ceasefire. We are asking for a ceasefire, we are asking for negotiation. If it is about retaliatory measures, Israel has killed about 8,500 Palestinians. If the Palestinians realize that what they did has come to a point when they have to begin to reflect, they may have reflected upon it now, that they didn't have the right to go into another person's country to cause the harm they caused. So at this point, Mr. Speaker, the Parliament of Ghana should ask for an immediate ceasefire, not for even humanitarian ceasefire. I would have wished the government not to dilly-dally with the situation, to be saying Palestinians stop, these people stop, just call for ceasefire, so that we see that government of Ghana is calling for ceasefire, Mr. Speaker. That is the least we can do, because the history of it is that Ghana government recognizes the existence of a Palestinian state. We do. And we have a Palestinian embassy in Ghana. And we have an Israeli embassy in Ghana. So we, as non-aligned in our perspectives, recognize the existence of the two countries. And if there's a fight between them, we must call for a ceasefire. Nothing less, nothing more. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I want it to be resounded that upon reflecting on the situation in Israel and Palestine, and upon the deaths that are occurring everywhere, upon the flying bombs and the day-to-day deaths occurring, we believe that the ultimate is that we must sit down and negotiate, and that we must stop fire now, stop the bombing now, and stop the fighting, so we can sit down and reflect and be more civilized in approaching life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Let me go to Honorable Sylvester Tete, MP for English Botiano. Yes, Honorable, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the true rendition is Botiano English Amanfro. You can also say DNA for short. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement and having provided leadership to all of us, and the country's position has been stated clearly that we stand for positive neutrality in this matter. Mr. Speaker, we bemoan the unlawful invasion of Israel by Hamas, and I believe that everybody in this world bemoans that act of unlawful invasion. However, Mr. Speaker, every leader in Ghana has stated clearly that Israel has a right to defend its own sovereignty. The territorial integrity of Israel is in the hands of the Israeli people to defend its citizens every now and then and however they choose to do so.
The important thing, however, Mr. Speaker, is the war crimes that are being committed as we speak. Whilst you have a right to defend yourself, you equally have a right to respect the international protocols governing war. Mr. Speaker, in war, we have to protect and defend the vulnerable wherever you find them. These are civilians, medical professionals, and even people who no longer have the strength to fight. Mr. Speaker, the position of this country must be supported in all our deliberations that the Israeli people must give way for aid to be given to those caught up in this war. Those that are caught up in Gaza Strip, Mr. Speaker, they cannot all be described to be people belonging to the Hamas group or the Palestinians, as it were. That is why it is important that we call for unlimited access of aid to the Gaza Strip to ensure that international conventions on rights of persons where wars are being declared are respected in that respect. Mr. Speaker, we have a responsibility and obligation to protect civilians in times of war. This becomes a war crime, and the Israeli government should help to respect that. Whilst we ask that they respect the rights of every citizen or the vulnerable in times of war, we also call on Hamas to cease fire and inviting the Arab League to support them in fighting the Israeli people. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the President and the Foreign Ministry for providing clear and concise direction with respect to Ghana's position on this matter, that whilst we remain neutral, we also respect the right of the Israeli people and call unequivocally for the support of aid to the Gaza Strip. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute.
Yes, come to Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and let me also thank my sister, the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, for bringing this statement to the House. Mr. Speaker, indeed on the 7th of October, we were all awake and heard of what has happened in the Middle East. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm so excited that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has informed this House that no Ghanaian has been affected in the Middle East. The fear initially was that most of our compatriots, our brothers and sisters, Ghanaians who are in Israel or in Palestine, will have been affected. But this assurance has come today to affirm the fact that no one of Ghanaian descent has been affected. Mr. Speaker, just as we know that what happens in any part of the world affects us in this country, and we all know that recently the Russia-Ukraine war has its effect on the economy of Ghana. And so whatever happens in Israel between the Palestinians and the Israelis will also affect us as a people. We know majority of Ghanaians like to go on pilgrimage, especially Christians want to go on pilgrimage to Israel because they want to go to the Holy Land to experience, the journey of Jesus Christ throughout history. And therefore, Israel is a home to most Christians from this country. And therefore, anything that happens in Israel will affect majority of Christians who want to go on pilgrimage there. And therefore, calling on ceasefire, absolute ceasefire, or between the Palestinians and Israelis is in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, the Hamas is an organization that we all know that is not supported by the Palestinians. It is an organization on its own. And as we all know, it's a terrorist organization that tries as much as possible to inflict hardship, death, and what have you on unsuspected civilians. What happened on the 7th of October shouldn't have happened at all. but it does happen. And therefore, I'm calling on our colleagues, both from the Palestine and from the Israeli part, to sit down and agree. They are brothers. Actually, when you go to Middle East, especially when you go to Israel, you notice that Gaza is in the middle of Israel. I mean, you pass through Gaza, some of the roads from even Tel Aviv to the other city passes through Gaza, but just that it's been closed. You cannot go there. You have to go through, because if you are not a Palestinian, you cannot go to Gaza. If you are Israeli, you cannot go to Gaza. They are all brothers. It's two states. They live. It's just like Nima within Accra, and therefore there should be that harmony. There should be peace, among themselves. And I'm calling upon these two countries, two states, to sit down and agree on absolute solution to this conflict. Mr. Speaker, the minister's statement stated that Ghana has always advocated for a comprehensive and sustainable solution to Middle East conflict. Ghana, therefore, supports all international efforts geared at finding a just and peaceful and lasting solution that will guarantee the right of the state of Israel to exist within secure and universally recognized boundaries, as well as the Palestinian people's legitimate right to self-determination and establishment of Palestinian state. And that's the decision and recommendation of Ghana. Israel should exist and Palestine should exist. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
I'm taking one, then I come to leadership. Yes, Honorable Member for Buakwa South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this all-important statement. I commend the government of Ghana for the position it's taking. I think it's very sound and very ennobling that we should balance the issues critically. And if you don't balance the issues critically, a lot of violence will take place. We are being educated that Hamas is a terrorist group. I do not have the full evidence to that effect. But whoever they are, and if you look at the dastardly act which has precipitated this violence, it leaves much to be desired. But we know that at all material times, those who want to perpetrate violence, they have some money source. That is what we know. That individuals who have mercenary propensities and want to do certain things against the civilized world, you always find people with deep pockets who are giving them the impunity to misbehave. So we need to look at it from that perspective also. That whoever is giving strength to a group who might want to inflict terrorism on a nation, those individuals are as guilty as the ones who are doing the violence. And the whole world should look at it from that perspective. Honorable Speaker, one thing I heard about this incident, which I am of the humble view, was very interesting, was what the President of America said to the people of Israel when he visited them. And I want to quote him: "Don't let rage overcome you. Do not let rage overcome you." That's what President Joe Biden said. And that is what I believe the international community should sound strong to Israel. Because if you look at the disproportionate level of the violence, it leaves much to be desired. I do not believe that in trying to find Hamas to wipe them out, it should leave in its trail the death of innocent people who never visited violence on Israel. And I pray to God that Israel should see this. You do not destroy the innocent in the hope that you find the mercenaries or those who did the violence. And that understanding should dawn on Israel. And I think it is the position of even America that we should look at it from that perspective and contain the situation. Honorable Speaker, I am of the humble view, and this will be a few things that I want to add. I am of the humble view that the cycle of violence in the area of Palestine and Israel should cease. Some people are even giving Bible foundations for this cycle to continue. But I do not see how that is civility and the way to peaceful coexistence. There must come to a point that civilization should dawn, that the right of Israel to exist is right. We all recognize that. And by equal measure, the right of Palestine to exist should also be respected. And when we have this mutual self-respect, the kind of situations that we find ourselves in now will not continue. We need to break the cycle of violence. But I want to stress that we can never break the cycle of violence in the area insofar as there are rich cowards in the background, rich, strong, mighty, deep pockets who are sort of giving oxygen to terrorist groups to perpetuate the violence. They won't own up. And that is a pathetic act, to give money to and resource and groups to go and perpetuate violence, and the whole peace of two nations will suffer. I am grateful that I have this opportunity to add a few words to the very strong statement from my colleague, who is the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. But I can see that for the first time we are standing together. All the good things coming from my colleagues on the other side, and what we are saying the same thing. Is it possible that what matters the most, we should stop all the kind of party quarreling and the rest of them and converge on truth? For there's nothing you can do against the truth but for the truth. I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. I'll take the last one from Pusuga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by my honorable sister and colleague, the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Rural Integration. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Palestine and Israel has been a long-standing one. We are all aware. And it's not the best, Mr. Speaker. It is very disheartening when you look at some of the issues, the clashes, the killings, and what have you. It is not the best for any humanitarian existence. Mr. Speaker, this has been a long-standing dispute, but unfortunately, from my observation since the early 70s, I have never heard any group of countries coming out to talk and to work against it and then to enable peace and coexistence. Although we have heard of negotiations that have taken place, but I do not know how far and how much they have gone to ensure that those negotiations gained solid grounds. If you observe, you will realize that for years and years, you will hear continuously the issue of Palestinians being harassed day in, day out, families being carried away, hostages being taken. We don't get these, excuse my language, these big countries or the big wigs coming out to say anything. We don't get any talks from them. Today, what we are hearing, and is disheartening, I'm not happy about it, is that So much number of countries are supporting Palestine, so much number of countries are supporting Israel. Is that what should happen? For me, no. None of us should take sides. None of us should think of which country should be existing and which country should not be existing. Both states should exist. Both states should live in unity, they should live in peace. I don't believe in the fact that we think another country has had so many casualties, another country hasn't had so many casualties. They would have been fanning the fire to make sure that they continue, because it will be like an issue of retaliation. People who think that they have had so many casualties will definitely be thinking that we will retaliate or we will do something against our colleagues. But if we all preach peace, if we tell and make everybody understand that there is no need for it, we should better build a world in which we all live in peace and coexist. It will be the best. And so I buy what the Deputy Minister has said on the issue of Ghana's position, that both states have got the right to exist. The only thing we need to understand is that we need one another. Whichever way you are thinking about it, whichever way you want to go, we need one another and we need to coexist. We need to live in peace. Mr. Speaker, I have just heard that Hamas is just an existing group of persons. If they are an existing group of persons, why would we associate them to any of these two factions? And if they are just an existing group of persons, what are we doing to ensure that we stop or we enable them so that they don't continue having a hand in these problems that are causing these deaths of innocent persons, very, very little children, toddlers, children of about 2 years. You see them running out of strikes that have taken place, and in fact, it's very, very bad. So, Mr. Speaker, I will urge that we all continue to support the fact that both states have the right to exist, and everybody has the right to life, and that we should be patient and tolerant of each other, especially those countries, and that the big wigs, those countries that have come out to either support Israel or Palestine, should please tone down, come together, and rather look for a peaceful solution so that both states will coexist. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Let me come to leadership. No comment? No comment. Very well. So, honourable members, we will take the second statement. And the second statement is at the instance of Honourable Member for Juaboso. Honourable Samuel Kwabena Minta Akando. Abena Minta Akando. And his statement is on the prolonged closure of Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital Renal Unit Outpatient Department. So, Honorable, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the name is Kwabena Minta Akando. Unfortunately, I don't have any Christian name. Mr. Speaker, I'm most grateful for the opportunity to make this crucial statement on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, Parliament as a whole should be deeply concerned about the persistent closure of the Renal Unit Outpatient Department at Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital. This situation has far-reaching implications for the well-being of dialysis patients in Ghana and raises serious questions about the commitment of government to transparency and accountability in our healthcare institutions. In the initial case of the facilities closure was attributed to scarcity of essential medical consumables required for dialysis. When dialysis medical consumables were finally procured, the service saw an unprecedented increase in fees from 380 Ghana cedis to 765.42. Mr. Speaker, the hospital's public relations officer explained to the general public that this alarming price adjustment was as a result of the government withdrawal of tax exemptions, leaving the hospitals burdened with the full cost of importing vital medical consumables for dialysis, leading to unexpected financial strain. The hospital therefore had no option than to increase dialysis fees to cover part of the cost and render the service unsustainable in the long run. However, the subsequent statement by the hospital's chief executive officer on Good Morning Ghana on the 28th of September 2023 contradicted the PRO's explanation. And according to the CEO, the tax exemptions were still in effect, but the hospitals opted to pay the duties to expedite the clearing of these medical consumables and avoid incurring demurrage charges which may exceed the required duties. The long and short of this explanation is that the hospital incurred additional costs on medical consumables by paying duties either to the withdrawal of tax waivers, as said by the PRO, or to expedite the delivery of essential medical consumables, as reported by the CEO. Mr. Speaker, as of now, there has been no official communication as to whether the duties paid to expedite the clearing of dialysis medical consumables have been refunded. But even more interesting is the fact that the hospitals owe suppliers of dialysis consumables about 4 million Ghana cedis, which is making it very difficult for the hospital to secure these consumables. Mr. Speaker, 4 million Ghana cedis should not be the reason for which many Ghanaian men, women, and children are denied critical dialysis treatment. Whatever financial bottlenecks are warranting the continuous closure of the dialysis center should not be countenanced by government, neither this House. Mr. Speaker, other government hospitals continue to provide dialysis services at the old rate of 380 Ghana cedis, with some even offering the same services at lower fee of 350 Ghana cedis. This glaring inconsistency raises serious concerns about the commitment of the government to resolving this issue. If indeed Korle-Bu teaching hospitals pay duties for dialysis medical consumables and the government is unwilling to reimburse these costs, the situation demands immediate clarification and resolution. Mr. Speaker, although government hospitals enjoy tax waivers on the import of dialysis medical consumables, private hospitals and clinics offering dialysis do not enjoy the same tax regimes. Patients seeking dialysis service out of Korle-Bu are therefore confronted with high prices, some 2 or 3 times fees they have to pay for dialysis at Korle-Bu teaching hospitals. The Minister for Health, in a meeting with a section of minority MPs on the 13th of October, assured that plans were far in advance to have the center reopened soon. Unfortunately, this soon seems to last longer than anticipated. The Minister understands that immediate action is required to alleviate the sufferings and financial strains on dialysis patients. However, constraints to reopen the center may be coming from other avenues requiring the attention of this House. The reopening of the outpatient department cannot continue to remain in abeyance. Mr. Speaker, even more distressing is a statement from the Renal Patient Association to the effect that since the closure of outpatient department of the Renal unit in May this year, more than 19 outpatients have died. The tragic loss of life emphasizes the urgency of the matter and the necessity for immediate intervention, Mr. Speaker. It is imperative that the Renal unit outpatient department is promptly reopened and the approved 380 Ghana cedis fee charge is reinstated. Mr. Speaker, I therefore call on this House, with your guidance, to call the Minister responsible for health to come to this House and clarify why the outpatient department of Renal unit of Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital remains closed and what measures have been instituted to ensure that the facility is reopened as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, I plead with this House to rally behind me in calling on government to consider absorbing the full cost of dialysis for Ghanaian patients, or at the very least, absorb whatever the difference beyond the 380 Ghana cedis. This will help alleviate the financial strain on patients and ensure timely access to life-saving dialysis treatment. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health and the hospital administration must, as a matter of priority, address this situation. The denial of essential healthcare services is a severe violation of patients' rights and a breach of public trust. We implore the government to work diligently with the hospital to rectify this situation and uphold its commitment to providing accessible and affordable healthcare service to all citizens. The paramount objective must be the prompt reopening of the Renal unit outpatient department and the provision of essential subsidies to ensure that healthcare services are accessible and affordable for all citizens. Mr. Speaker, I pray that this House will, as a matter of urgency, demand a swift, transparent, and equitable resolution to this issue that offers relief to the patients who have endured this ordeal and renewed faith in our healthcare institutions. I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Let me go to Adenta first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to commend the maker of this very important and pressing statement, Honorable Kwabena Minta Kando, the Member of Parliament for Dwaboso and the Ranking Member on Health. Mr. Speaker, the alarming rise in the case of dialysis in this country is of great concern. We must take a very serious look at our lifestyles. Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding, anyone and every one of us can have this health condition. Mr. Speaker, when this unexpected happens, it is expected that as a country, we must be in a situation where we can help out these people. Mr. Speaker, the Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital is more or less the biggest referral center in the country where if anybody has issues, would be referred to. At the time when Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital was charging 380 Ghana cedis per dialysis session, it served as a buffer or as a check on other facilities not to go too far away from that price range. Mr. Speaker, at that time, the Ridge Hospital was charging 500 Ghana cedis per session for dialysis. The Police Hospital was charging 450 Ghana cedis. Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital was doing 400 Ghana cedis per session. For the private facilities, Ghana Canada in East Legon were charging 530 Ghana cedis per session. You have the Nyaho Medical Center, they were charging 500 Ghana cedis per session. And Mr. Speaker, these private hospitals don't enjoy any tax waiver of any sort. And yet they are able to charge, say, 500. If we allow Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital to push their price from 380 to 764, where they are proposing to go to, what that means is that these private facilities that don't enjoy any tax waiver are likely to push their price range to close to 1,000 or even more than 1,000 for individual sessions. Mr. Speaker, it is important that as a country we take a very good look at this situation. The issue of dialysis is now happening one too often in this country. It can happen to any of us, Mr. Speaker. I would want that I would plead with this House, per the recommendations of our ranking member, government should look at the possibility of funding the healthcare on dialysis. It is not something government cannot do. Some of the reasons being assigned for the closure of the OPD services in Korle-Bu is due to an outstanding payment of 4 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, 4 million Ghana cedis should not be the reason why we would not open up the renal unit in Korle-Bu. Mr. Speaker, on a daily basis in this House, we see tax waivers coming to this House on a daily basis for 1D, 1F. Mr. Speaker, I would entreat that we look at the possibility of granting tax waivers on all consumables for dialysis products, irrespective of whether they are government facilities or private facilities, because at the end of the day, these tax waivers would go to inure to the benefit of Ghanaian citizens. So, Mr. Speaker, if we are considering as a House, if we give tax waivers to foreign companies, why can't we give tax waivers to indigenous companies that are set up here, whose ultimate aim would be to ensure that Ghanaians are healthy? So, Mr. Speaker, I'd beg this House to consider, one, looking at the possibility of introducing tax waivers on all consumables for dialysis products, and then also decapping the NHIA. Mr. Speaker, the NHIA, if it's decapped, I believe that NHIA can take on fully the full cost of dialysis in the country. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you for this opportunity, and I thank the maker of this statement. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me now give the floor to the medical practitioner. Yes, honorable member for Enya Sotu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very much happy for this opportunity, and I would also say a big thank you to the maker of this of this statement, Honorable Akando, who's I believe the ranking member for health, has made some very powerful statements. Now, the key thing is, how did we get here as a country? That should be looked at, especially because preventative measures are very important. Most of the discussions today has been more about the costs involved in dialysis. But I want to start from how we got here. And I really think that as a nation, we ought to carefully look at how we've gotten here in terms of, one, some of the unapproved herbal medications that are bombarding us, whether from our television sets or locally acquired medical degree people. When I mean that, I mean people who have never sat in any chemistry class or pharmaceutical class, who are giving our family members bad advice in terms of what to take in. I believe that as part of all of this, one key thing we need to worry about is the prevention. Because we cannot afford to always spend on curative measures. Renal care is expensive, whether here or any part in the world. It is expensive. And I believe that, I'm hoping that my statement or my contribution today is to plead with, one, our media houses, because they have a huge role to play in terms of the advertisement of, medications and things like that. And I've always wondered, authorized medications cannot be advertised largely in this country, but we have given room through our maybe unfortunate legislative practices to herbal medications to be just advertised almost on a daily basis. So that should be looked at. Now, beyond that, we have to come to terms with the fact that Africans generally are more prone to renal diseases than Caucasians. So in the Americas, there are more blacks on dialysis than white people. And once it is, quote unquote, something that we are more inherent to have, I think that as a nation, we need to carefully look at this and advise ourselves because of, one, our tendency for hypertensive diseases, our tendency for also diabetes, which also contributes largely to renal problems. And when I say renal problems, I'm saying kidney problems. Now, I also believe that we do ourselves a disservice in this country. We tend to depend solely on government for everything. Now, I differ in the sense that I'm pleading with corporate entities. I'm pleading with corporate entities and individuals who can also support healthcare. I think there's a story of one individual who's been really sponsoring heavily. I won't mention names here, but at least I think I know of some private individuals who are supporting heavily renal function. I'm particularly careful when I talk about this because I lost myself, a family member, to renal disease, and it's something quite dear to my heart. And I know that there are members of parliament here who are supporting people on dialysis, and it is expensive. It drains us. It drains the families who are going through this. And I really think that of all the many things we do, the finance ministry and the Ministry of Health ought to come with some relief to the average Ghanaian. And I think at this point I have to commend the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in the sense that he has made a challenge to the ministry and National Health Insurance to find a way of making it more, quote-unquote, affordable and easy to access for the average Ghanaian. I know from a policy standpoint, it will not be easy. Elsewhere, if you're on dialysis, you pay nothing. If we can achieve that, I'll be very happy. But I really think that this challenge that the President has given to the institutions has to be looked at. And by way of that, Health Committee and Finance Committee has to also start doing deliberations and looking at what is working in many other jurisdictions so that we can adopt the best practices forward. In the interim, the tax waivers that we have agreed on here for renal importation has to be carefully looked at, and if there are enforcement issues, we have to go at it and remind Ghana Revenue Authority and remind some of the people who strategically know how to delay the release of imports to these hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I am very passionate when it comes to health issues, and I also know that considering the quantum of monies that this administration has spent on health, second to none, I believe that if we attend our minds to this issue, we might be able in the next foreseeable 12 months do something remarkable for the people who are paying 3 times a week to have their dialysis. And in concluding, I will use this opportunity to beg again the media to help us in terms of the prevention campaign so that many more people will not be susceptible to this. And then I also think that in the interim, some people need dialysis for just a short period. Maybe government should look at how we can help those who need it for a brief moment of about 2 weeks or 1 month. And that might be a very good way to even start this process. But may I say that this statement was very well done, long overdue, and I would plead with us as parliamentarians to also give this some very serious thinking so that when it comes to accepting whatever recommendations or bills that may come in the future, that we will not be the same stumbling block. And I can mark it today that I'm sure that whatever recommendations may come out, Honorable Akando will not be the one saying no. Because sometimes, as we all know, good prophet recommendations are difficult to swallow, based on our political, background. But I think that Ghanaians will be happy to see that today we've deliberated on this so very much important matter of health, and more specifically, renal care. So on that note, let me say that Ghanaians, we are with you, and we are very concerned about our kidney health. Prevention is also very important. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let me give the first timer, Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the maker of the statement, Honorable Minta Akando, Member of Parliament for Yobeso, for making this statement. Mr. Speaker, kidney disease means your kidney are damaged and cannot filter the blood the way they should. So we all here at risk. So we all are at risk because we can fall a victim of this problem. Now, if a Korle-Bu teaching hospital, which is a teaching hospital at the highest level of our healthcare, can close this department, it amounts to killing Ghanaians. Why am I saying this? Because when you look at the statement from the Association of the Renal Patients Association, 19 outpatients have died already based on this closure. So the tertiary institution is being seen as being murdering Ghanaians because this is a service they're supposed to enjoy. It is their right to enjoy, but because of tax waiver, because of issues of consumable, because of these issues that government can solve easily, we are killing innocent Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, it is time now to call on government also to actually make provisions where they can exempt on all consumables for both public and private sector, because it is the Ghanaians that are going to those facilities, and then they also need to enjoy the benefits. Mr. Speaker, there is also contradiction between the PRO of the teaching hospital as well as the CEO. Which one should we take? Should we take the CEO's statement as a true reflection or the PRO? So, as a parliament, we need to interrogate this seriously to ascertain whether the tax waiver is still pending or it is removed. We need to know that. Mr. Speaker, as I speak to you right now, it is time for Ghanaians, it is time for government, it's time for us to start looking at specialized hospital with regards to kidney issues. Because day in, day out, this thing is coming. Men in uniform, I can tell you, when you go to police hospital as I speak to you, a lot of our police and men in uniform are on dialysis. And some are on the list seeking for welfare package to be sent to India for kidney transplant. As a country, we don't have that facility. It is time we should be thinking of that. And then it is time for this house to start looking at laws and rules to actually, in terms of harvesting of organs as well as transplant of organs. It is time now, it is the right time as a parliament we enact laws with regards to harvesting of organs as well as transplanting of organs. Mr. Speaker, in this view, I also think that the Ministry of Health is not helping matters, because the PRO is saying something different, the CEO is also saying something different. Where is our minister? of Health not issuing any statement with regards to this? Why are they promising that for almost about a month now they promised to pay the 4 million Ghana cedis, and then it's still pending and the place is closed? Why is the minister not talking? Is the ministry not taking this issue seriously? Or we will just sit aloof and then people keep on dying because of what? Dialysis? The minister should come again and then actually, and Mr. Speaker, it is time for us as a house, we call on the minister to brief the house with regards to the issues happening in Korle-Bu. We need to bring the minister to this house to brief honorable members about the situation happening in Korle-Bu, because we are murdering Ghanaians, we are killing innocent Ghanaians because of our inability to actually supply adequate consumables. On that note, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
So I'll take the last one and I come to leadership. So, Honorable Member for Sehuri also.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you, and I also thank you, the member for my own constituency, Yabuso, for making this statement. Honorable Kabemi Taka. Mr. Speaker, I have gone to, unfortunately I entered late, but I have gone to peruse the statement. The essentials with regard to what is happening is correct, but the solutions being proffered does not take cognizance of certain things which are happening in the health sector. How do I mean? The health insurance scheme. Everybody is saying that we should continue adding on things that the scheme cannot support. Right now, the insurance scheme is not being run exactly on, healthcare and financing principles. Insurance principles. And if we don't take care, we will collapse the system. Whichever way you look at it, chronic renal diseases are problems which bedevil most countries in the developing world. Because if you add it to your insurance system, depending upon the quantum of people who are on the system, you may collapse it. Because generally speaking, it's an internal disease which invariably the outcome will lead to death. Even if you do renal transplant, there's the phenomenon of slow rejection. So people are not very enthusiastic about adding it to, benefits on insurance schemes, particularly in the developing world. Having said that, a simple analysis of Ghana's health insurance scheme makes it clear that it can accommodate this problem. It depends not on governments, but on the Ghanaian polity. How do I mean? The insurance, even as we operate it now, there is a lot of leakage, informal payments. I'm calling for a thorough study of the insurance system, even in government institutions, so that the informal statements are put on the table and they can go to finance disease states like this. Again, I was the minister who led the implementation or the conception and the implementation of the health insurance scheme. I remember that when we brought it here, because of certain political reasons, certain proposals were jettisoned. I'm talking specifically about co-payments. You see, co-payments are something that you pay when you assess the insurance scheme, particularly with regard to, disease entities which are not acute in nature. And in fact, co-payments, the amount you are going to pay. Let's say 10 cedis for OPD service. You can plan for it and you can pay. That one, on the other side of the balance sheet, the inflow, you can get a lot of income from that. The time has come for a bipartisan acceptance of this, because co-payments are going on and it is going into private pockets. Number two, another submission that I want to make is that the formal sector workers This is one thing that is hidden from Ghanaians. We are compared to pre-insurance time, we are not paying anything. It might surprise you. When your salary, when we bargained with the then labor organization that 2.5% will be deducted from your salary, and yet you will receive all your insurance benefits, and yet you will be able to access health care. Mr. Speaker, this is what is happening. So in essence, before insurance, workers were not paying anything. Post-insurance, yes, it is their money. But what we forced to do, the national, the insurance system, is to give the same benefit. What government did was to just guarantee that in the event that their retirement benefits, the insurance cannot meet it, not health insurance, their retirement benefits, SNIT, cannot pay it, then government will step in. The time has come for the formal sector to be levied. It was part of the package, but it was stood down, Mr. Speaker. So I'm calling for Parliament in a bipartisan approach to look at that source of, revenue too. And then finally, it is not a tax, because that is when you pay your, I will have to explain, come later and then explain. I'm repeating, before insurance, you were paying the same, the SNIT was deducting, listen, SNIT was deducting 17.5%. But we, by the law, we forced SNIT to operate with only 15%. So for you, the worker, before and after, nothing has happened. But we are receiving the same benefit. I want to remind everybody to avert their mind to the original law. So that the government went by guarantee. We compared to the African region, sub-region, Tunisia, Nigeria, and others. They were paying even more. And they were paying less. Nigeria, for example, was paying deduction of 13.5%. And yet they were even getting superior benefit, better benefit than Ghana. That is one thing that your minister at that time and those who helped me came to, and government accepted it, and the rest they say is history. So in its essence, what you are paying now amounts to zero as far as, but you are receiving the same SNIT benefits. Then the final one is that there are certain entities which are benefited from the health insurance regime, but they are not being made to pay anything. I'm talking about the mining industry. They used to set up hospitals, and I have worked in several mining industry as a doctor, and I know the amount of money the extractive industry, the mining industry, and the timber industry, what benefit they did. It is dialysis. It is dialysis. But when you are talking, listen and listen good. When you are thinking of dialysis, you are talking about financing. And I'm advocating that it should be financed through the health insurance scheme. But my proposal is that once you take something from the benefit side, you have to increase your revenue. Is that not so? And I'm pointing 3 key areas where we can increase the revenue, and it will even go beyond. And the revenue is that monies which are being taken under the table, even as we speak now, they should be formalized, because they are being taken under the table and go and pay it and all that. Yeah, you are paying. That is co-payment in disguise. Number 2 is that what I've said, the formal sector workers, pre-insurance, what you are paying nothing. After insurance, your 17.5%, what goes to the SNIT board and the SNIT entity is 15. And yet you were not paying any additionality. The original proposal said we should be paying maybe 5% or 2% in addition. The time for us to interrogate that matter and then bring it on board. Because, like I'm saying, government went by guarantees. And then finally, certain institutions, and this one, the studies can be done. You can go and all the gold mining industries, or were offering clinical services, and it was a drain on their balance sheet, on their account. Now they have been left off the hook. Now the moral reason for doing that is that when you talk about renal problems, majority of them come from these areas because of their activities. Organ failures, if you do the public health accounting, you will see that majority comes from these enclave industries. And so those industries who were running hospitals before, you can actually get the amount they spent on their personnel in terms of finance for their hospitals, and then post health insurance, those who have closed down their hospitals, and in some sense you say that they are benefiting. That money, we should negotiate with them so that we can use it to support causes such as this, particularly when those industries, we can say that that is where chronic renal failure and things are emanating from. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, can I come to the leadership? A leader can sit. If
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me thank the maker of the statement, Honorable Akando, the ranking on health, and the MP for Duaboso, for a very important statement. Mr. Speaker, let me take it from where the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology left off. He admitted that there were leakages in the National Health Insurance Scheme. Mr. Speaker, and then also made a lot of proposals about how we can really make more resources available through the scheme. I think we must start off by asking the question, what steps have we taken to address those leakages? Very critically. Because it is very, very important that we address those leakages to make those resources available. The other important point that he didn't raise has to do with capping. How much is capped by government from the national health insurance that we pay, especially in an area that is so critical as in health of Ghanaians? I think we must revisit this issue of capping of the national health insurance scheme and the funds that are available, and make sure that we can have enough resources for hospitals and other clinics that are struggling to provide health care. And we don't admit it. In all these places, there's now what we call cash and carry, because that's the reality. If you don't have money, you are not treated, you can't buy medicine. So that is very, very important. But Mr. Speaker, I speak from a very personal experience. I mean, somebody whose father died of kidney and brother has died of kidney. Let me I say that it is critical for all of us to make sure that annually we undertake annual kidney function test. It's men. And the point that was made here about renal care is also very important. We must make sure that that is an area that we address. And one of the real causes of this problem has to do with uncontrolled, unregulated sale of traditional medicines and concoctions that, quite frankly, are killing so many Ghanaians and leading us to all these renal challenges. I think the FDA must do more in this area when it comes to traditional medicine. Mr. Speaker, even today in the 21st century, 2023, you take a transport and you see all sorts of concoctions being sold. And it is a very important matter that must be addressed. The point was made about the burden on government. It is true. And we on the political divide must accept. How is it that corporate Ghana, especially big businesses, focus all their support on entertainment? Can we really get them to basically do more in the healthcare sector, which is really critical? Yes, they must support the entertainment industry, for example, especially the communication sector, the telcos. How much money do they contribute to the health sector where it is so critical? We probably wouldn't be talking about an increase from 380 Ghana cedi to almost 800 cedi if indeed there were resources. But that is very important. This issue also brings to the fore the issue of bureaucracy especially when it comes to bringing items to the port and trying to clear it, items that are obviously going to save lives. I'm sure members of parliament here have horror stories to tell about trying to build medical equipment to a hospital and the nightmare of trying to clear it from the port, when it's obvious that it is intended to save lives. And that has happened so many times. You bring books for schools and you end up just paying for it. You bring medical equipment and you know that you would never try it again. We must really get the revenue authorities to draw that line and make sure that when it comes to equipment that are as critical as helping facilities in terms of saving lives, renal care, these are things that they must fast track and clear. I'm sure those are the root causes. But to the direct issue of how we got here, I think the authorities at Korle-Bu should have drawn the balance. How many people could afford overnight an increase from 380 Ghana cedi to 760 Ghana cedi? And that really was a problem. I think the call by the maker of the statement is also very critical. And let me quote him. He's saying that we should call on the minister responsible for health to come to this house and clarify why the outpatient department of the Renal unit of Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital remains closed, and what measures has been instituted to ensure that the facility is reopened. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important call. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure after this statement you have to have the last word on this matter. The Minister of Health must come to this house and assure us, give us a timeline for the reopening of this rental unit, because it is critical. People are dying already. We've seen the numbers of people who have died since this crisis. It is important. It must not happen, and everything must be done to avoid it. Mr. Speaker, we must not have another incident where, because of late clearance, Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital will just double the rate of care without considering the consequences. These are matters that are very, very critical, that must be taken care. Mr. Speaker, let me thank the maker of the statement for this very important statement and emphasize that the FDA must up its game in terms of the root causes of these challenges, especially the regulation of traditional herbal medicine that are not regulated, that are really all over in the market. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Let me give you the last slot, leader.
Speaker, I'm grateful. Let me start off by corroborating many of the things that my good friend, the deputy leader, has spoken to. And I must commend him. He's spoken like a statesman, a real statesman. I doff my cap to him. Speaker, again, he emphasized many of the positions and observations made by the Honorable Dr. Kisi. And it will be remiss on my part if I don't commend my good friend, the Honorable Akando. Speaker, the passion and the zeal, not just about the delivery of the statement, but also I had picked up reports that, Speaker, he had seen you in chambers, all trying to get your attention for this statement to be delivered. It speaks volume of the commitment, his commitment as a ranking member, a very proud ranking member of the Health Committee. I cannot be more proud of what you've done. And Honorable Akando, we commend you highly for this. This is a quick and prompt response. All of us are aware this matter has been awash in the media. Back and forth, it's been talked about extensively. And it's taking pains to put pen to paper and to draft it and get data and details. Honorable Ranking, we are very grateful. So I fully associate myself with the call for the minister to be programmed to appear. That is something we cannot compromise on. He must appear. And especially on a matter about the lives of our citizenry, we can't take for granted. It can happen to any of us. And so I'm fully associated with that call. And it's not too late. The business committee, I see members of the business committee, the majority and the minority, we are both here. We can take that decision. It's about the lives of our people. Whatever it takes, he must appear. We must program him to appear and to brief us. But, Speaker, let me emphasize the call made by Dr. Kisi, and he had traced how we got here. Speaking to prevention and the element of actions that we have to take to prevent or probably minimize this incident is very clear to us. It is something that we have to focus on. The deputy leader has spoken to what GRA and others can do when it comes to importation of equipment, medical equipment. But I dare say that Parliament as an institution, we have also not played our role well enough. So if it is a question of sharing blame, we can't be left out. We have oversight. We have a health committee. Yes, the Honorable Ranking Member is heard, eloquent, frequent, speaking about it. But I think it cannot be one person's action. Collective, by the committee. We have a committee on health. And going into the future, we will encourage them to get a bit more proactive in these matters and to get the support and the blessings of the leadership of the House. Speaker, let me say that whilst the contribution was ongoing, I've done some checks. And I can confirm that I think about an hour ago, the ministry had engaged the media. One, because the minister has given directives that the center should be open forthwith, immediately. The Korle-Bu Renal unit should be open immediately. And there are some other actions that have been taken. That is why I'm emphasizing the call. And Speaker, we need you to bless this call that the minister should be programmed to come and make this statement formally on the floor of Parliament. He can't sit in his ministry and engage the media and make this statement. He must come to the representative of the people and make this statement formally in the House. So that engagement has gone on. Directives has been given to Korle-Bu that the center should be open immediately. Korle-Bu is going to issue a statement, we are told today. Again, Korle-Bu has been charged to revert to the old fees or the old charge that is being charged. And so that is something that we need to recognize as we move forward. Speaker, on the NHIA absorbing these costs, these are the interesting call. And thankfully the President's Excellency has also given his blessings and support to this call. Here, I'm told the stakeholders are engaging on this matter. Again, the Health Committee will have to play a role, and I will plead with my ever passionate ranking member to liaise with the chair and see what they can do about this for us to come atop this matter. I think, to be fair, the focus has been on brick and mortar. When it comes to health, yes, Agenda 111 is good enough, but there is also a soft function in terms of health delivery, which seemingly we've not paid that corresponding or measured attention to. So we should look at it carefully for it to be a holistic approach in dealing with this matter. So it's gratifying that they will revert to the old charge. It's good enough that the center will be open immediately. That is good. Korle-Bu is supposed to issue a statement. It's not just the center being open. They must carry the public along. The taxpayers need to be carried along. So the ministry or Korle-Bu must issue a statement immediately because of the happenings, for the public to be carried along, to know that there has been a significant shift in decision making, for all of us to know what to do. Having said this, I want to implore you, and I think what I say represents a position of leadership, that the minister should be asked to come. Today is Thursday. We can grant him Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, he must be in this house to brief us on happenings, and not just happenings, going to the future, what the thinking of the ministry is to show leadership in this matters. Speaker, I thank you for the space granted. I'm grateful.
Very well. Thank you. So on that note, the Minister for Health, who is one of us, is to appear before us on Thursday, 9th of November 2023, to come and brief us on the closure of the Renal Unit Outpatient Department and the upsurge of kidney-related problems in Ghana. I mean, the minister should come and tell us something. Almost everywhere people are talking about the kidney-related problems. He should come and tell us if the NHIS issue can also be captured in relating to kidney-related issues. I mean, he should come and tell us and to the extent the whole nation. So that is my directives. We have the last statement.
Mr. Speaker, just to draw leadership's attention, on Tuesday, we were informed that after the approval of the business statement for the week, we were informed that the energy minister will be here on the 9th to brief us. Then the national security, then it is changed to Wednesday. Then we are told that on the 9th the national security minister will also be here. Next, also Thursday on the 9th. So I just, whether or not we don't have too many briefings, and the Electoral Commission too will also be here to brief us, just for guidance, whether we don't have too many briefings for the 9th.
As far as I'm aware, on the 9th, I'm aware of the national security and now the Minister for Health. The Minister for Energy, he said he will be here on Wednesday, which is 8. What about the Electoral Commission? Wednesday. So we have Wednesday for Electoral Commission and Minister for Health, Thursday for National Security and Minister for Health. Okay. So we have the last statement, and that is a statement to eulogize Honorable Mrs. Dorcas Ama Finiwa Komi, a one-time member of parliament in the Third Republic. That's what I'm being told. And the statement has been put up by Honorable Alasan Kwabena Gansa. Honorable, you may take the floor now.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity as I join the family and people of the Sikmor Odobin Brakwa constituency to mourn the unfortunate death of one of our illustrious, virtuous, and highly distinguished personality by all standards of our nation, our former MP for Esikuma Odobin Brakwa in the Third Republic of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Mrs. Dorcas Amafe Nima Komi, Ni Andam Aka Amamansa, was born on 18th February 1931 to Mr. Bedford Andam and Martha Ama Fiwa Mensa, all of blessed memory at Aguna Odobin in the Central Region. She started her primary education at Odobin Methodist School and completed Standard 7, and later continued to Wesley Girls High School from 1948 to 1952. She proceeded to Wesley College in Kumasi for 2 years and graduated with a post-secondary training certificate A. Her first station after Wesley College was Winnipeg Methodist District Schools in 1955 and was subsequently transferred to Cape Coast, where she taught in various primary schools until she resigned as a senior superintendent of education in 1976. To drive change, she passionately and fearlessly ventured into politics in 1979 and led a highly competitive parliamentary campaign against a formidable candidate, one Peter Okore of the People's National Party in the Esikuma Odobin Brako constituency. The election was fiercely fought and she emerged victorious to become the very first female member of parliament from the Action Congress Party in the Third Republic. Mr. Speaker, Auntie Dakas, as she was affectionately called, deeply loved her community and invested practically in all her time, money, and energy into the development of Esikuma Odobin Brakwa and its people. Indeed, Esikuma Odobin Brakwa was her soul. She also loved her country and focused her energies on education, entrepreneurship, and politics, with the sole aim of bringing about change. Mr. Speaker, Auntie Dorcas, as a politician, was incorruptible and a towering figure of integrity. She abhorred corruption like a plague, and her famous and enduring words when faced with corruption were "Wanyenidem." That's not how it is done. She had a firm belief as a woman of principle that there was only one way to do things, which is the right way. During her work as parliamentarian, she was honest and respectful to all her colleagues, be it the ruling party or opposition. As a member of parliament and an educationist, she served on various committees, including the Education Committee, and was well respected by all. Her honesty endeared her to all parliamentarians in the House. Mr. Speaker, after the 1981 coup d'etat and the Parliament of the Third Republic was dissolved, Honorable Mrs. Amafenima Komi engaged in various entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial activities. She established a nursery and a primary school at Odobin in 1985, a private school from her resources to help educate the needy youth. She then handed it over to the Ghana Education Service in 1991 to run at no cost to them. She succeeded massively, as evidenced by the glittering citation she received on Ghana's 50th Independence Day anniversary. She further established a vocational school in the 90s, which she named the District Girls Vocational Institute, with a hostel attached and advanced vocational training to properly transition the young girls into the society through the principles of honesty and integrity and propel them towards economic freedom. She was the first presiding member of the Esikuma Odobin Brakwa District Assembly from 1988 to 1998. Being a servant leader with dignity and purpose, she was so popular that she remained unopposed as a presiding member for 10 years until she retired, after which my humble self, Honorable Alhaji Alhassan Kobna Gansa, took over from her. She also served on various boards, such as Nyakrum Rural Bank, and Radio Peace in Winnipeg, among others. She chaired a committee which was set up to establish the Odobin Senior High School and was instrumental in the acquisition of 4 boreholes to provide the community with potable drinking water. Mr. Speaker, Auntie Dorcas was an extremely active woman, a builder extraordinaire and selfless. She believed in self-determination and self-sufficiency, as well as real economic empowerment of the people, especially women. Mr. Speaker, as it is often said, death is inevitable, and the constant journey we will all one day embark on. Auntie Dorcas was still in high spirits until the 9th of August 2023, when she passed on to eternal glory after a short illness at the age of 92. She was survived by 6 children. May God Almighty receive her gentle soul to eternal bliss. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think you want to contribute. But do you know her? At the Third Republic. Anyway, so I'm taking one each from my left and my right. So, Honorable Member for Saraga, is it West? Saraga South. Okay. Let's hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to make a very short contribution to those beautiful statements written and delivered by my colleague, Honorable Alhaji Kobna-Ganza, MP for Odobin, Odobin, Vrakwa constituency. Mr. Speaker, to answer your question whether I'm going to contribute. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm making a contribution. And I'm making a contribution because at the time this woman was elected to Parliament in 1979, I was 9 years old. I remember following the politics of that day because my mother was very active with the People's National Party. But I loved the campaign song of the ACP. That is Colonel Benasco's party then. And I used to sing along.
Do you remember the song?
Abranoma, Abranoma, Abranoriko. Abranoma, Abranoma, Abranoriko. Abranoma, Abranoma, Abranoriko. Vote for action, action now, action!
Well.
Mr. Speaker, so I used to sing along. And so, when I saw this statement today, I told Alhaji that I need to share a few words and thoughts regarding this woman's extraordinary journey at that time. And Mr. Speaker, I find it necessary to add my voice to this because if you look at the history and the data of our politics, Mr. Speaker is amused. Mr. Speaker, I can sing all the songs. Should I sing the Popular Party's own? In 1979. So she made this extraordinary journey at that time in 1979. If we count 1979 to now, we are talking about some almost 50 years, if not more. And we can see a certain pattern of progress in terms of women's participation in politics and women's attendance to Parliament. If you look at this fourth republic, from the first session, 1993, where we had 16 women in Parliament, we today, at the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic, have 40 women in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, what strikes me about this development is that people like Honorable Mrs. Dorcas Ama Femina clearly sets the blaze for us to follow. I want to believe that at that time, they were able to navigate all the difficult circumstances that all of us find ourselves in today, and still made it to Parliament in 1979. Women in Ghana have these icons to look up to in order that we can fashion and sharpen our own destinies to coincide with the destiny of the country. I say this because, Mr. Speaker, we've had the Female Affirmative Action Bill hanging around this Parliament. At every turn you ask, you are not sure where we are with it. But I want to believe that even then, without an affirmation bill, women were able to work their way through to Parliament. The 40 women in the 8th Parliament made it through without the affirmative action. And I want to believe that next year's election is going to see many more women participating in the election and many more elected to Parliament, as the data has shown. In the 6th Parliament, we had 29 women. In the 7th Parliament, 36 women. And then in the 8th Parliament, we have 40. We are expecting a natural progression on these numbers in order that we can set the template for other women to emulate and know that it can still be done. We'll be very happy if we have the affirmative action bill. But without it, Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that we are still going to continue to fight hard for our space within the political landscape of this country. I want to eulogize Auntie Dorcas very much. I'm going to make it a project to research her and read some more about what she did as the first female parliamentarian for Action Congress Party in the 1979 Parliament. Some of these experiences in this part of the world, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we don't write many biographies that we could have read and benefited from their experiences. But as it is today, the internet enables us to research into what people's lives were before they departed this world. We hope to learn from their works. We hope to copy their footsteps. And by the grace of Almighty Allah, we want to see an increased number of women in this 275-seater parliament. On that note, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Leadership. But, honourable member, for your information, the affirmative bill has been laid. So prepare and come and contribute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Fine-tune it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that information.
Well, well. So, leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me thank the Honorable Hassan Kansa, the MP for Asikuma or the Ben Abraka, for eulogizing the very distinguished life of Honorable Amakomi. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important statement coming from the Honorable Member, especially for a woman whose life has been exemplary, distinguished. Mr. Speaker, I followed the statement. And we've noted that she started off as a trained teacher. Mr. Speaker, as a trained teacher, we know how many people have been doctors and engineers and pharmacists, very prominent people because of her very work she started as a teacher. Mr. Speaker, and then she ventured into politics. At that time, Mr. Speaker, you must be very courageous, you must be strong, you must be very focused. Even in 1979, in that very heated period to be in politics, especially as a woman. And I remember, Mr. Speaker, those are the periods that we gain our political consciousness. And she came from the ACP. At the time, I remember very well, they had 10 seats. Very vibrant parliament with different political parties coming in. We've been told that she was so focused, and the role she played in parliament, very active in committees, especially educational committees. This also showed in a lot of the things she did in the constituency, including the establishment of primary schools and girls' vocational school. Mr. Speaker, this was very, very remarkable. It meant that he was so focused on empowering women, especially. She even worked as a presiding member in the assembly, as I found out. So this is really a pioneering woman who did a lot, not only for his constituency, but for his country. And we owe her a debt of gratitude for her service. And this is all it's expected of us. We are supposed to be born, dedicate our lives to serving our family, our country, and our God. And so she has done exactly that. And Mr. Speaker, because she has done exactly that, serving God and country with distinction, she now deserves a very good rest. And so, Mr. Speaker, may her soul rest in peace until we meet again. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Leader, if you can.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Say something.
Mr. Speaker, let me, I already met them. Let me applaud my colleague from Esport of Ibrakwa for coming up at this time with this very sensitive and appropriately laid eulogy of a woman of substance. Madam Ama Benyuado, as we all know, has been a very good example of woman activism as far as this parliament is concerned. Indeed, if you consider where she is coming from and the period within which she was able to break through the Iron Curtain and come to the forefront of politics, if you take your minds back, when we were in a revolutionary time, this lady could not be trampled upon by her peers. And she managed, as it were, to break through and stand firm in front of everybody, including even the men, and make herself well known in the politics of NDC, by extension Ghana. She probably will stand out as the person or the MP that has served the Gumwa West constituency more than anybody else. She served from 1992 to 2004. Before it was taken over by Joe Ackman, and the rest is history. The Speaker, even when President Mills of blessed memory born in 2009, she got the opportunity to be named as the Central Regional Minister. And there's one thing that comes to mind when you recall this particular episode. At the vetting, when she was asked about an accusation that she laid on the former president, with President Kufuor, she came up boldly to tell the panel that it was political talk. Well, but of course, obviously.
I remember. Do you know the one you are talking about?
We are talking about Ama Benyuado.
Not Ama Benyuado.
Please guide me.
You've been talking of Ama Benyuado, but it's not Ama Benyuado. It is Dr. Ama Finima Komi.
Thanks for the correction. I was eulogizing the wrong person. But however, be that as it may, it is still in the right direction. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that my colleague from the other side has done good justice to the topic. And I like to associate myself with him and say that we should actually find a way to immortalize the name of this person and let her name remain.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Mr. Speaker, let me just add that this is a house of record. My honorable member ended very well by admitting that we have really laid the foundation. So I will humbly submit that all those facts he brought must be completely expunged from the record, frankly. Thank you.
Well noted. So, table, take note of that. Let's expunge all the aspects that do not relate to Honorable Mrs. Comey. Let's expunge them from records. So, on that note, we bring proceedings of the day to a close. And I will urge the available leader to move a motion for
the Speaker, as the available leader for the majority group, I move that we adjourn proceedings for today. I so move.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, second the motion.
Very well. Honourable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and it has been seconded. The question is, all those in favor that this House adjourn sitting to tomorrow 10 o'clock in the forenoon, say aye. All those in favor that this House adjourn sitting to tomorrow 10 o'clock in the forenoon, say aye. All those against, say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The motion of adjournment is carried, and the House is accordingly adjourned to tomorrow 10 o'clock in the forenoon. The House stands adjourned.